Welcome inside of Hartford All-Access. We're sitting down with the 7th-year head coach and Pete Lawrence of the lacrosse team as we do a season recap. Brian Irizarry on hand with you. And let's start it off. Not a good thing, but last time that we saw you out was down in Stony Brook. It was the semifinals against the rival in the Seawolves. Game came down to the wire, 1-goal game. And things didn't go your guys' way, but now that you've had some time to kind of settle it on in, how difficult was it for you, and then especially the seniors too, to realize that you guys didn't have an opportunity to defend your title?
Yeah, it was, I think, a very disappointing, way for the season to end, on the field. I think there were a lot of other good things that happened this season that I think we're really proud of. But yeah, definitely in terms of our play on the field, I think not the way we wanted to go out by any means.
Let's take a step back to the beginning of the year. I had asked you this before, but for those people that missed the interview, you guys started off the season kind of rocky waters, but you played 3 of the top 10 teams. Looking back on it now, do you feel that you overloaded coming off the success of 2011? Do you feel that you just jam-packed it a little too much in the beginning?
No, I mean, I think, as a program, it was kind of a necessary evil. We want to take the next step, and I think part of taking the next step for us is playing teams like that and seeing where we could compete. And I don't think, there's probably ever been a more challenging schedule played in, the history of Hartford Lacrosse. And I think if we didn't compete, it would have been one thing, but I think we competed in those games, We didn't win any of the games, And I think, like you're saying, if, I were to go back and I would have said, geez, I think we can maybe win 1 or 2 of these, if we got a great effort. And I think we got some good efforts, but we came up a little short, by a goal against Denver. And I think we ran out of gas against Maryland. But again, Denver was just in the Elite 8. Maryland is going to the Final 4. So, again, we weren't losing to bad teams. UMass ended up finishing the season, ranked as one of the #1 teams in the country. So I think, kind of a necessary evil, and now I think, again, now we have more guys in our program that have experienced what it's like to win a championship. Now we have guys that have experienced, getting very close and being disappointed, and now we have guys that have seen what it's like to kind of prepare and play, multiple top 10 teams. And again, these are all things that are new every year for everybody in the program, and whereas I feel like now when these guys return next year, there'll be a little bit more comfort behind, what it's like to kind of get in and come up short, get in and win, play a lot of teams like that, play close and lose, and, things like that. And I think, it's a learning process. And I think, just meeting with the guys and kind of getting their feedback individually on their feelings. I think you'd ask the guys and they'd all say, what were some of the highlights? For a lot of guys, it would be, that opportunity to have gone and played in Bird Stadium. That was something they had dreamt of. Or, even though we didn't win, flying out to Denver and getting to play, a team that was in the Final 4 last year. So even though we came up short, what was interesting, those were some of their highlights. As a coach, that's what you want. We have guys that want to compete and play at a high level. So their highlights weren't some individual performance, in a game that we won. It was more, that was one of my more memorable experiences, was playing one of those top 10 type teams. So, we plan to play those type of teams and that type of schedule, going forward.
You're going to lose a good chunk of your offense, with the seniors, but against Wagner, you guys were able to set a mark with the most goals scored within a period. So you saw glimpses of what the freshmen can bring to the table. Do you feel that even though you didn't end the season the way you wanted to, all the parts to kind of build the foundation are going to help you moving forward?
Absolutely, yeah. We've been getting out and recruiting a lot right now, and in doing so, we're also seeing some of the kids that will be freshmen next year, just with the overlap. And so we're really excited about the freshman class coming in. We think we got a great class, one of the bigger classes we've ever recruited. And then just with the core nucleus coming back. And so, we had some awesome seniors that were great players really from start to finish. We had 3 guys, join the 100-point club, and Bender, Genick, and Compatello, and so those are 3 big guys on offense. And Scotty B, graduates as one of the best goalies all time. Kessler's a first-team all-conference defenseman, and Ben Napton, had a great career, and Cudmore and Whalen, and just all the way.
Yeah.
Even good role players,
Yeah.
Rogers and Goody. But I think, again, it's like we've been a team, or at least tried to be a team, that we've always been very balanced, You're always going to have someone who's your leading scorer, but I think we've always shown that we can have good balance. So I just think now some guys will just be featured a little bit more, but I don't think that you'd say they're not capable of kind of stepping into that role. Like I think now, Rory Nonamaker and Jared Franz, and Tate Clydonis and Packy Dollard and maybe a Connor Uturo and a Kevin O'Shea who had a good rookie year. There's a lot, like even just those names, I know the team well, those guys can all play, and so they're going to get a lot more touches, whereas, the reason they didn't have as many points as maybe a Bender, a Genick, or a Compatello is they got the most touches, so they should have the most points because nobody touched the ball more than probably those three guys, in most games. And so now that they're gone, it's just going to mean more touches for those other guys. So I think you'll see guys, like I just said, who will double and in some cases triple their amount of points because it's just they're going to get to play more. And I think they're ready. They've been behind some pretty good players, And I think the same thing is true of you lose a Napton and a Kessler. Well, we had some other guys that Alex Mazzarato at times could be our best player, and he was just kind of behind Ben Napton.
I thought he was the best defenseman.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion.
Yeah. So I mean, at times, it's like so exactly that. I mean, we have some great young guys that, and I think the biggest thing is they just need to work really hard this summer.
Yeah.
So if you're listening,
or watching here.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we just have to work really hard, and I think again that's what led us to that championship. Is I just think that year we were unsurpassed in terms of how hard we worked and how we prepared. And I think, looking back on this season, I think at times we just thought it was going to happen because we knew we had the talent.
Yeah.
And whereas before we never felt that way. Like, hey, we can, and that's why we come back and win some of those games at the last minute because we knew, hey, if we need to really dial it in, and we had guys that can make those type of plays. But it's almost a weakness as much as it is a strength because when you just know you can do that at any point, you lend yourself to being a little bit more complacent, where I feel like the year before, we never felt that way. We were like, oh my God, we got to go out and take this thing right from the beginning and go for it or else we won't win, And whereas I think our mentality this year was we were like, oh, you know what, even if we don't play great for a spurt of time or whatever, we know we can always pull it back together and maybe pull this thing out. And we did that obviously in dramatic fashion.
Trust me, I know.
A couple times,
Finally, with the recruiting, I know you're going to be running a bunch of camps like you did last year. With that entailed in it, do you feel now that the resurgence of Hartford Lacrosse that, maybe those, I had asked you with the top heavy, with the schedule, are you finding those schools now picking up the phone, or are you finding those kids that you might have not been able to get out of a Maryland or something, calling you guys now because of the surges over the past couple of years?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, recruiting is definitely, in terms of the quality of individuals, in terms of their academics and their, lacrosse resume, definitely at a different level. But also, we're now competing with schools, for some of our recruits that are at a different level too. So, there's pros and cons to that, But yeah, no, I think again, the kids, the class we have coming in, I'm very excited about the class that we're working on right now. Excited about, and I think more than anything, it's like you're saying it's more the kid, the recruit from like the more marquee program, who maybe is even one of their marquee players, who has interest in us. Whereas before we were always seeking after that kid, but it maybe wasn't reciprocated. Whereas now that kid's seeking us out at times, or when we find him and we like him, there's good synergy right off the bat where it's not like we're trying to. It's like, who are you? Like, it's like, oh yeah, no, I know Hartford.
Exactly.
More of a household name. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely gotten a lot easier.
Well, good luck this offseason on the recruiting and the camps. That's the head coach, Pete Lawrence. Maybe next year we'll take a commercial break in this half-hour show. But always a good time to talk to you, and stay up to date on HartfordHawks.com for the latest on the Hartford Lacrosse program as well as the camps coming up this summer.